God's weary wallets bled, this bled, scarred on bruise has often led. Welcome to your gory bed, hearty victory. Now's the day and now's the hour, see the front to battle line, see approach proud Edward's power, chains and slavery. Woe it be a traitor knave, walk and fail a coward's grave, was he base as be a slave, let him turn and flee. For Scotland's king and lord, freedom's sword was strongly drawn. Freeman stand, oh freeman fall, let him follow me. By oppressions, woes and pains, by your sons in silver chains, we would reign our dearest things, that they shall be free. The proud usurpers low, tyrants fall in every foe, liberties in every blow, let us do or deed. Scots, yes, Scots, what pay we Wallace bled, Scots, what Bruce had often led, welcome to your gory bed, hearty victory. Now's the day and now's the hour, see the front of battle line, see approach proud Edward's power, chains and slavery. You see, that's what it's all about. Shed blood, hundreds of years of shed blood for freedom. The freedom that is being fought for, not only in Scotland but in the UK and in so many nations of the world. What a proud heritage Scotland has. That is a wonderful patriotic song, Scots Way. And with that, I welcome you, Lindsay Griffiths, here to this week's edition of the LINDSAY TARTAN Politics Show from here in Whithorn, Galloway, southwest Scotland, the home and headquarters of the Scottish Heritage Party. Hooray! This may only be small yet, but didn't David overcome Goliath? This is only a wee party yet, but powerful and growing. And here we are this week to talk about the bed of nails. Whose bed of nails? Well, guess who? Yes, Yusuf, I got it wrong. Hamza Yusuf, our new First Minister. He didn't say it himself, but a gentleman called Alex Neil, a former SNP MSP, bit of a mouthful there, who I think was a former health minister as well. He said this, he feels sorry for him, you know. He said that poor old Hamza Yusuf has inherited a bed of nails. So we're going to be looking at that first. But first, I'd just like to point out one other little detail about our dear First Minister and his bed of nails. I don't think he's got much clue about Scottish tartans. And dear Hamza Yusuf, I would advise you very strongly to get a book, which we can send you a book actually from our studio here in Whithorn, our encyclopedia of Scottish tartans and who is and is not allowed to wear them. Now, dear Hamza Yusuf here, I don't know if you can see this, but he's wearing a nice smart suit and he's wearing a tie. And I strongly object to this because it's an Anderson tartan tie. And guess what? Not only can I wear the LINDSAY tartan because Lindsay's in my family, a surname far back in my family, I can also wear the Anderson tartan because my maiden name was Anderson. So I'm not too happy about this. Can you not find a Macusif tartan somewhere? Perhaps. After all, yeah, well, I won't go into it because we're really concentrating on the bed of nails at the moment. Well. It's a very uncomfortable start for the poor man. Let's look at some of the nails that he's lying on. Poor Hamza Yusuf. Well, of course, first of all, there's the ever popular Gender Reform or Gender Recognition Act, which was slapped down well and truly by the Secretary of State for Scotland, as we know, because there was a certain article which was part of the 1998 Devolution Act for Scotland when the Scottish Parliament was set up and so on. And it was said then that this was part of the agreement and everybody knew it then and they should know it now. That if anything was considered to be dangerously unconstitutional and against in any way the welfare of the UK and the legal structure of the UK, it could be stopped by this article. So unfortunately, that's one bed of nails, the Gender Recognition Act, and however much it's going to cost to fight this legally, which he's intending to do apparently, which brings us to nail number 2, and it is connected with this. And nail number 2 on the bed of nails is the uneasy alliance with the Green Party. Now, this is very divisive, even within the SNP, about whether or not they should be, I should say, allied with the Green Party. Because if we think that the SNP is very far left party, which it is, that's nothing compared to the Green Party. That's a very nasty nail, the Green nail. And the Green Party are pressurizing Hamza Yusuf, it would seem, towards this battle of the Gender Recognition Bill. They're also pressurizing about a number of other things, including the introduction of an assisted suicide bill. We've mentioned this before. The assisted suicide bill, or assisted dying, whatever it's called, for terminally ill adults, brackets, close brackets. Well, this is really great. What it's got to do with the environment, I can't imagine. See, the Green Party, if they would even just stick to the environment, we might not agree with them, but that would be something if they stuck to what their remit is. But they're poking their noses in all over the place. And, you know, for a country which, like Scotland, which has suffered major population decline for centuries and still is really got a low growth rate and a very low birth rate. This is one of the things we can well do without. You know, we've already got abortion, killing of the unborn, to put it frankly. We've now got killing of the sick or the elderly. And over and above that, we've got other factors like this Gender Recognition Act, none of which are going to solve any of the Scottish population problems and issues. Talking of which brings us to nail number 3. Yes, you got it. Ferries, ferry boats. And this also could ultimately cause havoc in the distribution of population in the nation of Scotland. Because who is wanting to live and work on an island where there aren't any ferries and you can't get off it unless you've got a rowing boat or something? Because we've still got this situation where the ferries, the new ones that are being apparently built as commissioned by the Scottish Government, are not nearly ready yet. And some of the older ones are giving up the ghost. Namely, the ferry to the island of Arran, which isn't very far away from here, just up the coast from us. Beautiful island. There's been trouble even with the Ullapool Stornoway ferry, the ferries to the outer isles. There's been trouble with ferries to the inner isles, for example, Call and Tyree, which we mentioned last time. There's been trouble all over the place. And, you know, it's typical of the infrastructure. I mean, that's nail number 3, I think. Nail number 4 is other parts of the infrastructure. Like, try driving on the roads in Dumfries and Galloway. See how fast you can drive and whether you can get away without falling into a ditch or smashing your suspension and bursting your tires on the potholes. And yet, you just go over on the ferry from Cairn Ryan to Larne or to, I've forgotten the place, Belfast. And you will find immaculate roads and even dual carriageways. Yes, he's got a bed of nails, all right. Then, of course, there's the forthcoming coronation, which is less than a month away now. A lot less than a month, in fact. And guess what? Do you remember that 2 out of the 3 candidates for First Minister, 2 out of 3 were avowed Republicans? Now that's interesting because Kate Forbes, she was quite laid back about it and said she's quite happy to be part of the Commonwealth, I think I remember. But the other 2 were honestly and openly confessed Republicans. Well, that's not so uncommon nowadays. It's a movement which, like it or not, is growing, the Republican movement. That's all good. Except for one thing. This is a particularly nasty nail, this one. Because Hamza Yusuf, a vowed Republican, has decided he's going to attend the coronation, having been invited there, presumably, to represent the Scottish government. Which would be fine, except he's caused a major uproar since there is an Independence Day, Scottish March, big day for independence on the very same coronation day. So, you know, I wish he'd make up his mind. Is he a true practicing Muslim or not? A bit difficult because of some of his stances on abortion and gender recognition and other LGBTQ agenda, etc. Some of these things are not necessarily mainstream Muslim beliefs, one would have thought. And is he a Republican or is he a monarchist? He seems a wee bit of a hybrid. So those nails are really digging in, aren't they? Then there's the nail, the big, big, big one that we're all hearing about all the time, of finances of the SNP and governance. Not good. As we well know by now, it even came as a shock apparently to Hamza Yusuf. All sorts of things came as a shock to him, it would seem. There is the question that 6 months ago, and we were never told this, and even the party members didn't know, 6 months ago, the firm of accountants that had been auditing the SNP's books for the past 10 years decided that they couldn't do it anymore. Now, not only was that hushed up, but the SNP have apparently been trying to get an accountant, a firm of accountants, any firm of accountants, to audit their books. And guess what? They have a deadline, as they call it, of July the 7th, which is not long. And they'll be in deep trouble with the Electoral Commission. At the very least, they'll be fined. It doesn't look, if they can't get these accounts audited by a reputable firm by then, it doesn't look good, does it? Now, even so, things are so bad that actually this former minister I've mentioned before at the beginning of the meeting, the beginning of the program, Alex Neil, he's actually urged the SNP to hire a specialist type of accountant called forensic accountants. Well, that would certainly clear the air. It's really horrendous what's going on. Also, we have begging Kate Forbes and Hamza Yusuf, begging the party to stick together, begging the members to not leave, although a lot of them already have, of course, as we all know. Then you've got the nail, I love this one, of the £100,000 battle bus, in inverted commas, which was at the poor old lady called Mrs. Murrell's house in Fife, and has been lying there for a little while. Apparently, according to the neighbours and people around about, people who know these things, it has never moved from there since it was delivered, and quite a while ago. And apparently, now that we've found out about it, and again, Hamza Yusuf, I don't think even knew about this, never mind all the other SNP, MSPs and the party members. Apparently, it was meant to be a battle bus. Now, to be used during COVID, to reach people. Now, this is really interesting because I've actually seen battle buses before. I'm sure some of you have, dear viewers and listeners and party members and such, and hopefully others who are about to join the party, the Heritage Party, I mean the Heritage Party, Scottish Heritage Party. I'm sure some of you have seen battle buses before. I actually remember with my husband David, who's on the controls here, I actually remember being on a battle bus way back 2016. This was the battle bus for Vote Leave and Brexit and so on, and it was touring Wales with campaigners, with cabinet ministers like IDS and David Jones from the UK and others. And I remember it was a great big huge Coke red bus, bit like Liverpool Football Club's team bus, if you've ever seen that. And it was really something. But it's really strange, this idea of having a motorhome as a battle bus. I mean, how many campaigners, how many MSPs could you get on there? Would it just be Nicola Sturgeon and her man? It's really hilarious. So that's another nail. Oh boy, which brings us to the subject of Peter Murrell. How do you say it? Or Murrell, which is, of course, Mr. Sturgeon. Now, he, poor man, we're not allowed to talk about it too much because it's still ongoing. The investigations are ongoing. But there is a big question here. Normally, when there are investigations going on, people are suspended from their duties or from the party. I mean, for example, when a football referee gets into trouble for possibly elbowing in the face a certain Andy Robertson, the captain of Scotland's football club, that dear referee with a Greek-sounding name, Konstantin Hatzidakis or something, he was, even though he wasn't guilty or not guilty or anything, innocent till proved guilty as well, like Peter Murrell, innocent till proved guilty, of course. But he was suspended from duties, this referee, pending investigation. Now, in the end, it's just come out today, I think it is, that this dear referee didn't mean any harm, really. He just pulled his arm away from Andy Robertson and he said sorry to him. And the apology was accepted. So he's all right. Nothing's going to happen to him. He's not going to be fined or punished or anything. But he was suspended from refereeing until it was sorted out. Surely, the very least one would expect is that the former chief executive of the SNB, Peter Morrell, would be suspended pending investigation from the party. I mean, that's just quite normal. Nobody's suggesting he's guilty or whatever. He's innocent to prove guilty, but it's quite normal to do that pending investigation. And it would look a lot cleaner, really, and more open and honest to do this. Because above all, this is what's desperately needed, is openness, honesty, and transparency. This is why last week's programme, Lindsay Tartan Politics Show, focused on the lament of the old SNP, like Alex Salmond, and even I think Fergus Ewing was mentioned as well, and Jim Sillars. Because in those days, there seemed to be, it wasn't perfect, but there seemed to be a lot more openness and transparency and normality. But, you know, at the moment, you wonder how many more nails poor old Humsa Yusuf is going to have to sleep on at night. It's a bit sad. So maybe we do need a firm of forensic accountants or anybody really to come and do, I was going to say cook the books. I meant, no, not this time. I mean actually complete their work. So, all good. Apart from that, what else have we got? The paramedics say people are getting ill because their homes are so cold. I think that features a lot in Scotland. It's really serious. The Scottish government estimates, we did hear, that about 36% of Scotland's homes will now be in fuel poverty after recent energy price rises. Why, may I ask, are those energy price rises happening? One assumes that it's because of environmental issues and net zero and the Agenda 2030 of the United Nations and lovely things like that, which seem to be beyond anybody's control. Now, ambulance crews say this. They say they're treating a growing number of patients who are falling ill because they're unable to afford to heat their homes. It's really serious, this heat or eat. Very serious. And they're typically called out by usually older people, especially, who are more prone to hypothermia and so on. Friends or family call them out because they're concerned about them. And we read here, there's also respiratory illnesses come out of that, of course. There's also lower immunity and so on. And these dear paramedics in Glasgow here, they're saying they've been in homes which feel ice cold, where the patients are still clearly struggling to cope. It is sad to see people are living like that, says Tanya, one of the ambulance paramedics. There's been quite a few patients have been up to can't afford to buy food. They have to choose between eating or food. So they'll sit quietly at home. Because not everybody is able to go out to a warm space. I know there are warm spaces available in community centres, even churches and food banks and places. But not everybody's fit and able to do that or even get on the bus and go round and round on the bus. You know, trying to get warm, which is a bit difficult round here because half of the buses don't have any heating. Anyway, that's another story. So these poor souls sit quietly at home. And about 44 people a day have been put on average in last winter when it was really, really, really cold. That's in December. About 44 people a week were taken to hospitals suffering from hypothermia. It's just terrible. So, round Glasgow. So this is what they do if they're going to take people into hospital. A factor, of course, is if they're living in a freezing cold home and at risk of hypothermia or even death. Said, they can't turn on the heating, they can't afford it. It's appalling, it really is. The pressure facing Scotland's hospitals during this winter has led to a series of pleas for people to cut out unnecessary costs for ambulance. But the two ambulance people, Will and Tanya, who were interviewed here, they're pointing out that usually it's older people just grin and bear it. They don't like to phone the emergency services. I think some of it is because they're trying to be brave the way older people often are, not make a fuss. And some of it is also from what they've said, because they're afraid of being taken to hospital in case they never come out again. There is that. So this is a very, very sad issue, which is actually much bigger than in the nation of Scotland on its own. But we do tend to have lower temperatures here, so this is something that really needs looked at. Well, we're sorry about Hamza Yusuf and his bed of nails. We're sorry about the secrecy and skullduggery, good word that's been going on in the SNP, and there's got to be a better way. Let's get Scotland back to the real Scotland. I mean, we still need to be a modern nation, I know that. We still need to have technology and all these different things, and highly trained people, and, you know, highly educated people and all that. But let's get back to the real Scotland, which, thank God, is still around a bit in Dumfries and Galloway, the Scotland I knew when I was a child. Because all this stuff, this woke stuff that's being put on, and this dominance of the nation by Glasgow and Dundee, but that's what it is. Honestly, where does the former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon and her husband live? The house that was searched, and the tent that was put up in the garden and so on. Where was it? Glasgow. Where does Hamza Yusuf live? Dundee. You know, I'm sorry, but there is more to Scotland than Glasgow and Dundee, much as I appreciate there's a lot of nice people living in these cities too. But, you know, we need to have the real Scotland back, not this kind of artificial, green-dominated, woke Scotland. So, I think that's all for this week. Let's go back to the bonny banks of Loch Lomond again, as I say goodbye to you for this week. But there'll be lots more next week. My own bonny banks and my own bonny braes, where the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond, where me and my true love wherever want to gain, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Oh, you take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland a 40. But me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. We'll meet where we parted in yon shady glen, on the steep, steep side of Ben Lomond, with purple hue the Heelan hills we view, and the moon looks out through the gloaming. Oh, you'll take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland a 40. But me and my true love will never meet again, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. The white birdies sigh and the wild flowers spring, and in sunshine the waters are sleeping, but the broken heart it kens its second spring, though the vapour may cease from the greeting. Oh, he'll take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland afore ye, when me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. You take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland afore ye, but me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. Bye for now from the Scottish Heritage Party. See you next week. Bye. Scots Wahey.